Beyond the Loop. Chapter 1. The Driftwood Stranger. On this island, time is not an arrow shot into the unknown. It is a perfect circle, traced in the sand by an invisible hand. Every morning, I wake with the terrifying certainty of perfection. The sun crosses the horizon at the exact same coordinate. The dew clings to the taro leaves in the exact same symmetry. I know every grain of salt on my skin. I know the groan of every piece of driftwood rotting on the shore. I am the silent curator of a museum of the moment, condemned to relive the same page of a book that refuses to turn. But today, the ocean made a mistake, a magnificent, frightening anomaly. He was there, washed up where the white lace of the foam dies, a jagged, dark silhouette against the soft, organic curves of my world. He was not a spirit, nor a fatting memory. He was a man. His clothes, a torn linen shirt, and dark trousers were steeped in a reality I no longer knew. The scent of jet fuel, the artificial chill of air-conditioned offices, the gray dust of distant metropolises. Beside him, his wooden board, scarred by the reef, seemed to be his only anchor in this drift. I watched him from the shadows of the great banyan trees. My heart, long accustomed to the metronomic pulse of the island, began to race, hammering against my ribs like a caged bird. To see a new face was to see a new color appear in a rainbow I thought was frozen forever. As I drew closer, the air around him seemed to vibrate with a different frequency. He radiated a feverish energy. His fingers twitched in the sand, tracing invisible lines, perhaps graphs, or numbers, or signatures, as if he were trying to rebuild his fallen empire in the middle of this desert paradise. Every line on his face told a story of haste, of conquest, and of chronic exhaustion. This was a man who had spent his life chasing time, never realizing that time would eventually catch him here, in this crystalline trap. Suddenly, his eyes snapped open. They did not have the serene clarity of the island folk. They were a stormy blue, bloodshot, and filled with a cold, sharp panic. He did not look at the beauty of the palms or the crystalline water. His first instinct was to look at his wrist, a heavy watch of silver and steel, massive and silent. The hands were frozen. He tapped the dial with a frantic desperation, his face contorting as the seconds refused to pass. Here, the hands of man have no power. He pushed himself up awkwardly, his heavy limbs protesting against this new environment. He scanned the horizon with a desperate intensity, searching for a sail, a contrail in the sky, a signal. Anything but this infinite blue and this deafening silence. The shadows began to lengthen with an unnatural speed. The sky, usually so pure, began to curdle into an electric purple, the color of a fresh bruise. It was 5:55 p.m. The air grew thick, tasting of ozone and ancient electricity. It was the smell of the end of the world, or rather, the smell of its beginning. The man felt the shift. He froze, his eyes wide, staring at the horizon, which began to ripple like a mirage. The earth beneath our feet began to emit a low-frequency hum, a vibration rising from the depths of the volcanic rock. The ocean went still. The waves froze mid-crash, suspended like glass sculptures. Time was contracting, bracing for the great leap. The man turned his head toward me, and for the first time our eyes met. There was no arrogance left in him, no calculation, only a raw animal terror. He reached out his hand, not to call for me, but to anchor himself to the only other thing that seemed solid in this waking nightmare. Usually, at this exact moment, I close my eyes. I feel the world blink, a fraction of a second of nothingness, and I wake on my mat in the village, the taste of salt on my lips. The beach is empty, the sand is smooth, and the stranger is but an echo in my mind, scrubbed away by the great reset. The violet light hit the shore. It moved like a wall of cold fire, turning the sand into liquid gold. I stepped forward and seized his hand. His skin was searing, vibrating, shaken by a force that was trying to dissolve him, to erase him from the island's fabric. It was a war between the island's eternity and this man's reality. The light swallowed the palms. It devoured the mountains. I waited for the darkness, for the familiar void, for the return to the silence of morning. But the silence never came. Instead, a new sound tore through space, the sound of a heart beating against mine, an irregular, living rhythm, shattering the perfect symmetry of the cycle. The world broke, the loop derailed, and for the first time in centuries, we did not vanish. We were there, alone in the gathering gloom, as the stars, for the very first time, began to move across the sky.